The top 10 rich people who have gone bankrupt. Rich people who owned millions and some of them owned billions, and despite all that huge money, they went bankrupt as a result of the wrong decisions they made in their emotional or practical lives. The 10 most famous people who made bankruptcy. Michael Jackson, the king of pop and the most famous singer of all, his albums have sold millions of copies around the world, which made him a millionaire. But his extravagant lifestyle and the huge sums that Jackson paid as court settlements due to the multiple cases in which he was accused of child molestation made him at his death in 2009 owed $500 million, Ike Batista. The richest man in Brazil in 2012, and he owned gold and silver mines, mining companies and oil exploration companies, and his wealth at that time was estimated at about $35 billion. Batista's empire collapsed as a result of excessive spending and wrong investment decisions, so Batista owed huge sums of money, which prompted the government has seized his properties of palaces, companies, planes and yachts. In July 2013 he estimated the remainder of his fortune at about $200 million. David Siegel, a tycoon of the real estate sector in the United States, in 2008 he was trying to build the largest family home in the United States when a global crisis occurred and the value of stocks collapsed. So he lost billions of dollars as a result of that economic collapse. Bjorn Borg, a Swedish tennis player and was ranked number 1 in the world in the 70s, with 11 Grand Slam championships, he retired from the game at the age of 26, and from that time he divorced twice and suffered from drug addiction, and a number of his commercial projects failed, which caused him heavy losses. Billy Joel, a famous American pianist and singer, Joel lost several $1 million when he divorced his wife, ex-model Elizabeth Weber, after the divorce. Bruce Weber's brother stood in the line of the famous pianist and became his manager, but years later it turned out that Bruce managed to seize a large part from Joel's fortune. Mike Tyson, an American boxer, nicknamed Iron Man, won the title of world champion of professional heavyweight at the age of 20 years, and his mentor, Muhammad Ali Clay, collected a fortune estimated at about $400 million, but he soon lost all his fortune for various reasons, the most important of which is the huge sums he paid to his ex-wife. Walt Disney, at the beginning of his life, Disney invested his money in a studio to make short animated films, but the studio failed, forcing Disney to sell it to pay off the debts it was in, leaving only a little money with Disney, so he went to Hollywood, hoping to fulfill his dreams. Mark Twain, his real name is Samuel Langhorne Clemens, an American satirical writer and author of The Adventures of Tom Sawyer. Twain invested a lot of his money in completely unsuccessful investments, which plunged him into debt and forced him to make promotional tours around the world in order to be able to compensate for some of the money he lost. Willie Nelson, American country singer, songwriter, actor, and poet, he wrote more than 2,500 songs and released nearly 300 albums, and he is a 10-time Grammy winner, had a lot of trouble with the IRS, which caused seizures on all his properties at one point. MC Hammer, his real name is Stanley Kirkborough, an American rapper who reached the peak of popularity and commercial success in the late 80s to the mid-90s. Burrell's problem was extreme waste, as he had 200 servants working in his mansion full-time. In addition to that, he spent millions on renovations on his home in California. He was subjected to a lawsuit that left him owing more than $13 million.